the orange Toys R Us sticker made me scratch my head, but again, I was 4. I had no idea. And somehow I was convinced that Jeffrey, who was the Toys R Us character, the giraffe, Jeffrey helps Santa Claus shop for toys for good boys and girls. And I mean, hook, line, and sinker, I fell for it. As I should have. I was only 4. 4-year-olds believe anything.
Hi, and welcome to 5 Random Questions, the show where every question is an adventure. I'm your host, Danny Brown, and each week I'll be asking my guests 5 questions created by a random question generator. The guest has no idea what the questions are, and neither do I, which means this could go either way. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into this week's episode. Today's guest is Freddy Cruz, whose voice has entertained the Greater Houston area for more than 17,000 hours across 3 decades. He also likes to test his ability to not sound like a movie villain while jogging in his local neighbourhood. Freddy's the founder of Speke Podcasting, helping a wide variety of podcasters, media personalities, organisations and more take ownership of their brand's messaging. He also hosts the Cruise Through HDX podcast and is the author of 3 novels, with his work being praised by Publishers Weekly, Black Texas Magazine and more. So, Freddy, quite the old details there. Welcome to 5 Random Questions. How are you?
Fantastic, Danny. Thank you so much. Such an interesting format for a podcast. I do have to know, though, where is your random generator? Is he or she in a basement, locked away?
I would have to pay for that. That'd probably be my kids, and I'd have to give them extra credits for that. So no. We're just using an online one, the good old randomword.com generator. So that's the one we'll be using for this show. Before we start, actually, and obviously we'll get into the questions soon, a couple of quick things. Obviously, we were speaking in the green room. You had a little bit of an adventure with your car and a flat tire pre-recording. Yeah. And my question is, this is not part of the 5 questions. This is just out of curiosity. We can create so much technology for cars. We can, get them talking to satellites in space and get maps on GPS, etc. Why can't we solve the flat tire problem?
Oh my goodness, because humans happen. That's why. Humans happen. These random nails. So here in the Houston area, and technically I live in a suburb called Richmond, Texas, about 30 minutes outside of downtown Houston, and suburgatory. I mean, it is suburban sprawl. We have a 3-school complex being built across the street from our neighborhood, and so I'm convinced that we must have run over debris on my way to taking my daughter to work. I mean, listen, people just random stuff flies out the construction sites, or maybe somebody just lost a load of nails, or some diabolical individual decided, hey, let me just throw a bag of nails on the road.
Freddy's coming down. I'm going to stop him from getting to this podcast recording. Just waiting at the side of the road there.
Yeah. And
speaking of, like I mentioned there, the part of that, and I'm really curious about this, part of your daily routine is taking jogs around the neighborhood. And you mentioned that you're trying not to sound like a movie villain. So are you running along, guffawing and chuckling evilly? What's going on there, Freddy?
I love running. It's my form of meditation. It gets harder and harder as the summer months pass on. And so no matter how well trained I think I am, I still sound like a horror movie villain. And there's still going to be the elderly couples walking early in the morning, the mother with the stroller walking through the neighborhood who I'm running behind, and I'm like, all right, here we go. She's going to turn around and mace me. This is the morning I get maced. But yeah.
You need to get like a little clown horn or something that's non-threatening that you can sort of, ask people to move out the way and make them aware that you're on the jogging route.
A little waka waka, waka waka.
There you go. There you go. Perfect. So what we're going to do then, we're not going to scare anybody, hopefully, with these 5 questions. So I'm going to bring up the random question generator, Freddy, and we'll take it from here where we're going to go with these questions. All right, Freddy, here we go. Question number 1. What is the source of your procrastination?
Oh, the source of my procrastination has got to be the what if part, because as much as I say I don't, careful how I phrase this, as much as I say that I am not concerned with the opinions of others, at the end of the day, I am a perfectly imperfect human, And so the opinions of others actually does matter to me. And I think in the big grand scheme of things, the opinions of others actually should matter to us because some of these opinions are what pays the bills. Some of these opinions are related to us. Some of these opinions belong to people who live with us, who mean the world to us. So in that regard, it's the opinions of others, good or bad. It's, well, golly, if I'm procrastinating on this one thing, not so much because I don't feel like doing it, but it's like, okay, well, what if it goes awry? What if nobody likes it? What if it's the equivalent of shouting into an empty forest? At which point, people I love and care for and admire and respect, what would they think? Now, obviously, they wouldn't think anything bad of me. It's just, oh, well, the thing happened and you didn't get the result. So the source of the procrastination almost always is going to be the opinions of others. And I continue to work on it, even as I'm nearing 50.
Now, but do you have a filter for these opinions? Because as you mentioned, we should care about opinions because it helps us, A, grow and be better people, but also improve anything we're working on and better the lives of those that we care for. But is there a filter that you put on for whose opinion you do take on board and whose you think, I'm not listening to you at all because it's not valid? Or do you look at all opinions equally?
It's like a case by case basis. So we were talking before we started. We were talking about the flat tire incident. I have two daughters, 18 and 19. My wife is, I'm married also, and those are three opinions who I value. Their opinions I value very much, and sometimes I'll think that I put something really cool together. And objectively speaking, because I've been between podcasting and radio broadcasting, I've been doing this for close to 27 years. So I know that you don't get to do this kind of stuff for this amount of time if you suck. So objectively speaking, I'm pretty good. Am I the best? No, I don't want to be the best. I expect to chase excellence. So when I ask my younger daughters, hey, what do you think of this? And the opinion is, well, yada, 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 yada. And then they give me their detailed explanation of why what I did is not as cool as I think or thought it was. And then I have to look and be like, instead of, 19-year-old Freddy, if it was 19-year-old Freddy asking 19-year-old Kat, hey, what do you think of this? And then she said the same answer, I probably would have been like, well, forget you. You're not my real friend anyway. But the 48, almost 49-year-old dad version of Freddy is like, well, you got a point. However, I'm going to move forward with what it is as it is.
And the kids we've got two kids, they're 12 and 14. And as you say, they're great barometers of whether you're making a good, well, they're not always great barometers. They're great barometers for their age group.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if I say something to my 14-year-old son, for example, he usually comes back pretty quickly with something that disagrees with it and why. And then, as you say, you've got to choose, okay, am I going to listen to that or am I not? And if I don't listen to that, is it because you're 14 or is it because it's just you being sarcastic? So yeah, I completely hear you. And my daughter's 12, so that sounds like something I've got to look forward to in the next 6 or 7 years on that side.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, nothing you will do for the next probably 7, 8, 9, possibly 10 or 11, 12 years will be cool. Just as a parent, I speak from personal experience. Although I will say, I say that lightheartedly. There are moments when they're like, wow, that was really cool. And it makes me feel good. There are things sometimes that I'll do, and this goes for anybody when, whether it's helping to design podcast cover art or an episode or mixing down something that I'm not really used to mixing down and getting right, that if I receive a compliment on it when I was second guessing myself the entire process, that actually feels really good. And that tells you that it's directionally correct. So I as much as I like the positive feedback, I've learned to really, really enjoy the not so positive feedback. And generally the positive, did I say that right? I've learned to enjoy the negative feedback. Yeah, there you go. I've learned to enjoy the negative feedback, and the positive feedback, it's something that I'm thankful for. I'm especially thankful for for it when it's something that I know for a fact I'm not necessarily all that good at, but am steadily improving upon.
And then I guess you just got to decide whether to procrastinate on taking action on that feedback or not, or just, next time I'll do it differently.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Of course, deadlines matter too. So.
Oh, yeah, I hear you. And speaking of deadlines, and that's a really tenuous link, but I'm not a comedian, so there you go. Speaking of deadlines, we're on question 2. Okay, Freddie, do you get along with your parents?
Absolutely, all 3 of them.
Okay, you got to expand on that. I'm not letting you go there.
Yeah, so I've got my mom and dad divorced when I was 7, and I have a stepdad. His name is David, and they're all 3 incredible individuals in their own unique ways. My mom, I mean, what can you say? My mom is the best. She had me when she was really, really young. She had the opportunity to go to Miami University on a merit scholarship, and then I happened. And so that changed her life forever. And, not a day goes by that I'm not just thankful that I'm even alive. You can choose, at least, you're in Australia and I'm in the US, and for better or worse, you can make the case that, things have never been better, or things have, whatever. But the fact of the matter remains, we're alive in the 21st century in this moment. And for the most part, we have agency in our lives. We don't get to pick our parents. And I won the lottery because not only am I here, but I was born into a family that loves me and that wants and wanted when I was a kid, that wanted the best for me and was not discouraged from wanting to pursue the things that I wanted to pursue. It was like, well, I want to play football. Okay, well, you'll play football. Oh, you want to play t-ball? Oh, you'll play t-ball. Oh, you want to be a radio DJ? Okay. But it was never one of those things. Well, you know what? You're going to be a doctor and you're going to like it. It was, of course, I would have to be intelligent enough to get into university and go to pre-med. I fumbled my way through college over 8 years and eventually got a marketing degree somehow. But no, I love my parents very much, and I'm very, very thankful for them.
And you mentioned that obviously all 3 of them get along really well, and that's helped you, from when you were 7, growing to where you are now. Do you feel that because of societal changes and, views towards, adults separating or adults getting divorced has really changed from, say, 50, 60, 70 years ago to, maybe when your parents got divorced and when parents are separated now and raising kids separately, etc. Do you think that's also helped when that happened with yourself and the dynamics between, your mom, your dad, and your step-parent? Or is that just the 3 people that they are, that's what made it work?
It's a function of the 3 people that they are. And my grandparents, I was fortunate to have all 4 of them. One of them was not a very kind man, but I still even was able to learn some things from him. My stepdad did not come into my life until I was already a young adult, so I didn't grow up with him per se. But I just think that I was just really fortunate because there was the sort of looking down upon single moms, especially being a brown guy, looking down on single motherhood and single parenthood. And there wasn't really much of we didn't really experience that when growing up. And I spent a lot of time with her, and she spends a lot of time with us. And she worked really hard to ensure that we had Christmas presents under the tree, that when we were little kids, the Easter bunny came and left us chocolates, and we had birthday presents and all that sort of a thing. So we were really lucky. And that's not to, just because I didn't experience any of that doesn't mean that it didn't exist, because I'm sure it did. And, it'd be really easy to fall into that sort of silo of thinking, oh, well, I didn't experience that. So what are you talking about, Danny?
Yeah. No, it's like you say, I mean, just because you don't experience it, there's a lot goes on. We're in a very, and actually, sorry, just a quick correction. And this is not a correction, so let me take that phrase back right now.
Sure.
I'm in Canada. I think my accent throws people sometimes. But yeah. But yeah, all I was going to say was, so we're in like a really small rural village in sort of central northern Ontario. So it's about 3 hours north of Toronto, and people are really friendly. But we know that there's also a lot of, and Canadians by nature are meant to be friendly people. You know, that's the stereotype of Canadians. But there is a lot of like racism towards Indigenous people and First Nations people in Canada that there's a lot of reconciliation going on and has been going on for the last sort of few years. So I completely hear you. Like where we are, we're sort of cocooned away from that. But I know, and my kids know, and they get taught that at school, that it has happened. So they are aware of it. So it's, as you say, it's something that we always have to be aware of for sure.
I don't know why I thought you were in Australia. Maybe one of your guests was from Australia, and that's why I got it mixed up.
It's, you know what, it's possible. And I've got a funny accent. I mean, I was in Australia for 6 months, so I don't know, maybe I picked up a little bit there. I've got a lot of Australian friends, so who knows? Maybe that's where it came from. And my lighting's really funny at the moment. I don't know if that makes me look Australian.
Well, it's funny because now you don't sound like you are from the UK at all. Now you sound like completely Canadian. That is wild.
I know, it's strange. I've been away. I mean, I'm from Scotland originally, but I left Scotland when I was 21, 22, and I lived and worked in England for about 15 years. But during that time, as I mentioned, I went to Australia for 6 months, and I've been in Canada since 2006. So again, almost 20 years. So there's a whole bunch of weirdness going on there.
Now you sound Scottish.
It's just to keep the listeners on their toes and think they've got about 4 or 5 people speaking all at the same time. Keep them entertained.
All right.
All righty. So let's have a look then. That's awesome. Thanks a lot for sharing that, Freddie.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at question number 3. Okay. Now, I think I know some of this because we mentioned it in the sort of introduction, but what is your favorite type of workout?
I love a good 4-mile run through the neighborhood.
Now, is that your only sort of workout, or do you have more sort of exercise routines or fitness or just healthy routines?
I hate lifting weights. I would rather suffer in the 110-degree heat index of a Houston summer than even lift weights for 20 minutes. And as we get older, our body mass, our bone density, our muscle mass rather, our bone density or whatever, all the things, it starts to decline. I think it's by the time you're 30 or 40, you lose like a certain percentage of your oxygen capacity. Your lung capacity rather. And so all that kind of stuff scares the crap out of me. And yet at the same time, I hate lifting weights. So the go-to workout is always going to be a 4-mile run. I used to go between 5 and 6 days a week. I used to run, and now it's more like 3 to 4, if that. I had talked to a trainer who specializes in helping founders and entrepreneurs. And he essentially gave me permission to not run so much. He was like, okay, first off, you're overtraining. You're going to hurt yourself really bad. And then second off, you should be working on building your business. And I'm like, oh, okay, permission granted. I don't have to run as much. And the crazy thing is, Danny, is that combined with the exercise and a little bit of weights and then intermittent fasting, don't try this at home. Talk to your physician first. Don't do anything stupid. The intermittent fasting and the adjustment in my workout and doing some weights has caused a really cool weight loss to the point that I am now less than what I weighed in high school. And so I'm like all about it. And in high school, I was even more active because I played football. Well, I mean, I sat the bench on the football team, but who's counting?
But you were active on the bench. So that still counts, I feel, that still counts. And so what kind of intermittent fasting do you do? Is it the 16-8 or is it something different?
It is between 13 and 15. And if I'm feeling sexy, I'll go 16. But I mean, fatty loves food. So yeah.
I've tried the intermittent fasting, and I know a lot of people, as you mentioned, it definitely works. But I do love my food, and I found it really difficult to stick to that and to really, be, disciplined to do it properly for the results to come through. So if you I know you mentioned running is your favorite, and because you don't like weights, and I'm with you on that. I've got like a TRX system downstairs that I use now and again, but I don't use it. As you can tell by this fine physique that you're seeing in front of you, I don't use it quite as often as I should. But if you couldn't run for whatever reason, what would be your go-to exercise after that?
I've considered that before. I think I would do the arm bicycle thing. And that's assuming that I have the capacity to use my arms. So if we're talking about like a knee injury or a hip injury or pulled hamstring or whatever. Yeah, I would totally go into the arm bicycle.
And is that the one that's got like the big sort of arms, like the metal arms that stick up and you sort of do the back and forth movement with your shoulders, etc.?
I don't even know if that's what it's called, but yes, that thing.
Well, we've got one downstairs, and I think what's weird, we've got like an elliptical, which I think is maybe what you're on about. And then we've got like a wind bike where you can do, with the wind bike, you can pedal, but you've also got the option to attach these long arms and just use your upper body, to power the bike. So it might be something like that. But yeah, that'd be fun actually, because that's still working out and it's not too bad, and you're not doing weights, which is always nice.
Yes, and you're still getting the burn too. And it's been a long time since I've done that particular exercise. I don't even know how long. I would say probably high school, which is a long time ago. But if I remember correctly, you still get the burn factor. You're probably, as I'm doing the movements, probably working your triceps, probably your shoulders. I don't know if it's your delts or what, but yeah.
So we were going to work on the arms. If we don't have the legs, we're going to work on the arms. And when the legs come back, we'll be like Popeye upstairs.
There you go.
That'll be awesome. Hey there, Danny here. This podcast will forever be free to listen to. But if you enjoy 5 Random Questions and get value from the show and want to support it, you can either do that with a donation of your choosing or as a monthly supporter with a 5 Random Questions membership. Choose your preference over at 5randomquestions.com/support. And now, back to this week's episode. Moving on to question number 4. Let's see what the random generator brings up for this one. Okay. I'm looking forward to this answer because I feel there could be a few things with you here. All right, Freddy, question number 4. What are you most likely to stay up all night talking about?
You're right about there being numerous things. I would probably say, in no particular order, Midjourney, failure, podcasting, American history.
Ooh, now that's quite the random collection there. So Midjourney, is that the AI tool Midjourney, or is that Midjourney as in the best part of Journey the band in the 70s and 80s?
That is hilarious. I'm talking about the AI tool, text to image. Oh, it is just a fantastic program that I love using.
Now, I know there's a lot of fears around AI and the use of it by creators and voiceover actors especially. We saw the Scarlett Johansson OpenAI court case recently where her voice was used, without permission. Do you feel there needs to be maybe some kind of regulation? Or is it more about the platforms themselves should self-regulate? Or do you feel we're maybe worrying a little bit too much on the AI tools that are around?
I will say that as a user of AI who hasn't quite yet figured out how to monetize any of it, so there are some, even if you use Canva, that's all AI generated, right? Let's be honest. Anyone who uses Canva who's worried about artificial intelligence should take a good hard look in the mirror. But I would say that as a user who has not quite monetized any of his AI renderings, et cetera, I can tell you that the programs, the ones that I'm using, are self-regulating. So for instance, Midjourney has some things, structures in place to where you can't use certain names or even certain, I'll give you an example. I have got this bank of images and podcast names. It's like a strange hobby I have where I just create podcast names. And so I was trying to create an image of a teenager with her parents in the office of a therapist, and it would not create that image on Midjourney. It said something about guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, huh, okay, cool. And just went about my business. There's another program that I use for just the heck of it. I just create things and send them to my family. It's called Parrot. And it's got celebrities, politicians, internet influencers, SpongeBob, Peter Griffin, Eric Cartman, and you can select whatever person or character and you could write a message. And so I had tried to write a message using a certain politician in the United States and it wouldn't let me. And I was just using it for private. It was for a private message and in a what I thought was a humorous context, and it wouldn't. And there was another program that I can't remember off the top of my head that I again tried to use. I actually tried to use two names that are at the top of global headlines who are both running for a certain political office in the United States, and the guidelines were. It was something I'm paraphrasing, but it was users have agreed to not allow these names to be used during the election season. And I'm like, that is amazing. Like, I think that is the perfect example of self-regulation. Like, I don't know how much more better that could be. Like, the community has spoken. The Dans and Freddys of this that are using this platform have all banded together and said, we are not going to use those two names during the election cycle. Afterwards,
fair play.
Yeah, fair point, right?
No, that's awesome. And I feel that, like you say, the community regulation is always the most effective because you will get some bad people that want to do whatever. But I feel if you've got the community where you've got 95, 96% upwards that won't use that, that shows the end user that could be worried. Look, we're here, we understand it, we're going to regulate it and make sure it doesn't happen, as opposed to maybe leaving it to a platform that's looking to, appease shareholders, for example, so don't care what goes on there. So that's great. That's a great example. Great to see. And speaking of like Midjourney and AI like that, have you ever tried to create anything involving Sparrow, your dog? And if so, what happened? What was the best one?
Okay, I feel like, okay. So Speke Podcasting is my podcast production company, and it is spelled Speke because Sparrow and Zeke are the namesakes of the company. And so, yeah, I threw in this, what I thought was going to turn out to be the perfect blend of Sparrow and Zeke. Sparrow being, in Houston, we call them a Houston special because the homeless animal population is just terrible. So he's a mix of something, shepherd and God knows what. Zeke was a cattle dog Jack Russell mix. So I typed into Midjourney, please design a cattle dog Jack Russell shepherd mix wearing headphones set against the backdrop of Houston, Texas, primary colors, orange, red, and navy blue. And it spit out several iterations of really cool looking dogs. And one of them ended up being the logo of Speke Podcasting. And I'm like, that's the one. When I saw it, I'm like, that is the one. So when you see the logo, that is exactly, it's an AI rendering. And I don't know that the logo will ever change because I love it. It just looks cool. And you could turn it black and white. So if it's too many colors, if some sort of brand coach tells me it's too many colors, be like, okay, make it black and white.
That is very cool. And that there you go, folks. If you're into branding and you're not sure what to do with your next artwork, logo, etc., for either your podcast, your company, use your dog or use your pet as an inspiration, then your logo awaits. That is awesome. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very cool. So moving on, we're doing really well here. We're up to the final stage and I've really enjoyed it so far. Curious as to what's happening now with the final question. So let's bring this one up for you. You ready?
Yep.
Let's do it. All right, here we go. Question number 5. What is your first memory of being really excited?
Okay. The first memory of being really excited has to be when I was, I think, 4. It's one of my earliest childhood memories. It was Christmas morning, and I had gotten some Star Wars toy. I forget what it was, but it was a Star Wars toy. I was elated. I was beside myself because I got this toy. And the orange Toys R Us sticker made me scratch my head. But again, I was 4. I had no idea. And somehow I was convinced that Jeffrey, who was the Toys R Us character, the giraffe, Jeffrey helps Santa Claus shop for toys for good boys and girls. And I mean, hook, line, and sinker, I fell for it. As I should have. I was only 4. 4-year-olds believe anything.
And did you ever, so was there ever a point after, I mean, I'm guessing there's a point at some stage where if there's any kids listening to this podcast, Santa exists forever.
Yes.
But was there a point where you found the reason for that sticker being on there?
Oh, I'm sure it was probably the typical last minute parent deal. I mean, don't we all wait until the last minute to buy the highly coveted Christmas present? There was a movie made about that too. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger. What was that movie? I'm not.
That was the one where like it was based around the same time Toy Story was really big with Buzz Lightyear, right? And it was like the space like soldier toy that would come out, I think.
Yeah.
Jingle All the Way, I think. Jingle All the Way.
There you go. Yep.
That's it. Yeah, we've watched that. There's a tradition in our family where from December 1st right up until Christmas Day, we watch a Christmas movie every single day.
Love that.
And there's 4 of us, so me and my wife, 2 kids. We each get to choose, on alternate days what the movie's going to be. And Jingle All the Way, I think that normally happens in the second week usually. And we still enjoy it. It's Arnie. What's not to love?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Fun fact, we lived in Minneapolis for 3 years, which is where that movie is set. And there's a place, I don't know if it's open anymore. I think it's called Mickey's Diner or Mickey's Train House or something rather. And when my wife and I had moved, this is before we had kids, we had moved to Minneapolis it was the first time for both of us to ever move away from home, much less out of state. And I took a radio gig up there and we're like, oh, we get to finally go to Mickey's in downtown Minneapolis. And it was a rat hole, literally had a rat hole.
Oh, that's right. So it'd been pulled down, or it was just like it was worse than what your memory had left it as?
It was pretty bad to the point where, I mean, my wife and I, we're not snobs by any stretch of the imagination, but I think when you see a rat hole, you kind of stay away. But I mean, there's a scene in that movie where they're fighting. It's Sinbad plays the role of the guy who I think he steals the toy from Arnold. And so I think it's toward the end. Spoiler alert. And so I think we're past the statute of limitations.
I think so.
But there's the little diner car where they're fighting. And so we're like, we'll go there.
That is cool. And that came from that. So that car, that was from Mickey's Diner then, that actual car thing?
Yeah, the actual restaurant. Yep.
That is very cool. We don't have any of these things here. I think that might be a good thing if it's such a bad place now. But it'd be awesome to have a memorabilia or a movie place nearby to go to. But that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Well, we've reached the end. We've made it. We've done well, and I appreciate you sharing these very different questions and answers with us, Freddie. As is only fair, because I've put you on the spot for the last 30 minutes or so. It's only fair that you have your own random question to ping over this way. So over to you, good sir.
All right. I love this part. Claps his hands, rubs them together, because you are a fellow podcast professional / connoisseur yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely ridiculous, how ridiculous is it, Danny, when you see a random podcaster or YouTuber doing the man on the street interviews and they're holding a lav mic, not using the lav mic the way it was meant to be, wearing it, but they're holding the lav mic. How ridiculous is it?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. I apologize in advance, podcasters. I'm going to say at least a 9. I'm not going to go quite full scale 10, but I'm going to say at least a 9 because, as you mentioned, it's meant to go. It's built for a certain reason and how to pick up the vocal frequencies, which is below your throat. Obviously, that's where you need it in close vicinity. So it's not a great wind rejector. It's not a great noise rejector. It's not a great XYZ, unless you maybe get a top of the range one. So if you're waving it about, you're picking up all sorts of crap. And then when you go to a podcasting event, you must have been to loads of events where you'll see the same thing and then you listen afterwards and there's so much noise in the background. You think, no, please don't do that. There's so many good options that you can use. So yeah, the lav mics, I feel there's maybe a reason they're doing it. And I don't want to give them too much, crud. But yeah, when I see something like that, I can be a bit of a podcast snob, and I've been told that, and I'm trying to be better at that.
Me too.
I would give that a solid 9. So that was a great question. I was not expecting that at all. So thank you for that.
And you can also address your hate mail to Freddy@SpekePodcasting.com, by the way. Freddy with a Y.
Oh, I'm going to set up filters now, mate. And then anything that comes in about that's got lav or whatever in the title or tweet or whatever, that's going to be pinged straight over to you.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So, Freddy, as I say, I've really enjoyed chatting with you today. For people that want to know more about Speke Podcasting, that want to know more about your work, that want to find out more about Sparrow, for example, or Zeke, or anything like that, where's the best place to connect with you, etc.?
I'm most active on LinkedIn and on Instagram. Just look for the Freddy Cruz. That's Freddy with a Y, Cruz. And then the website is Speke, Speke, podcasting.com. If you want to learn more, I got some stuff going on. Our client shows are incredible, ranging from breast cancer awareness to healthcare economics to entrepreneurship and more.
Awesome. And I will be sure to leave all these links in the show notes. So whichever app you're listening on, make sure you check them out, and they'll link straight through to Freddy so you can find out more about what he does and who he helps. So again, Freddy, thanks a lot for appearing today on 5 Random Questions.
Really appreciate you, sir.
Thanks for listening to 5 Random Questions. If you enjoyed this week's episode, be sure to follow for free on the app you're currently listening on, or online at 5randomquestions.com. And if you feel like leaving a review, well, that would make me happier than that time I found out you got money back on juice bottles from the local grocery store. As an 8-year-old boy, this opened up a whole new world of riches. But seriously, if you did want to leave a review or recommend the show to your friends, I'd be super grateful. Until the next time, keep asking those questions.